I always thought my job as a night shift security guard in an old office building on the outskirts of Philadelphia was boring. Flickering neon lights, long corridors with worn carpets, and alarms that sometimes sounded for no reason made my nights feel monotonous. Until that night, everything changed. I arrived at the building at 10 p.m. A light drizzle dotted the windows, and the night wind made the metal door in the back hallway hum softly. The previous night's log noted no incidents, but tonight something felt different the moment I flipped on the main corridor lights. The silence was too thick, not just empty, but oppressive. I began my routine patrol. The squeaking elevator, the damp-smelling emergency stairwell, the archive room door that creaked as I pushed it open. As I walked past the third-floor hallway, I heard something. Footsteps, clear, but not in sync with my own. I stopped. Silence. I checked the portable CCTV monitor in my pocket, but there was no movement on the screen, just a long, empty hallway. I wrote in the logbook at 11:15 p.m. Heard footsteps on the third floor, but no one found. Possibly a small animal or an echo. Stay alert. A few minutes later, the footsteps sounded again. Closer, firmer. My heart pounded, but curiosity pushed me to follow the sound. I turned on my flashlight, sweeping the beam along the corridor. Nothing but long shadows cast by the neon light swaying with the vibration of the rain outside. I continued the patrol, but every time I glanced over my shoulder, I sensed something moving at the edge of my vision. I tried to convince myself it was just night shift stress, but the tension escalated when I reached the fourth-floor emergency exit. The door was slowly opening, even though I was sure it had been locked. The building's maintenance log said this door had been checked a week ago and deemed secure. I decided to wait and record the hallway with my pocket camera. The footage showed an empty corridor, yet the footsteps continued, separate from my own movements. I could hear my breathing on the recording, but there was another breath, soft, heavy, yet no one was visible. The next day, I reviewed the building's historical archives. The building was constructed in 1922 and once housed a well-known law firm. There was a record of a former employee who claimed to often hear footsteps in an empty corridor before dying in a mysterious accident on the emergency stairs. No one knew for sure who it was, just a clipping from a local newspaper. I tried speaking with a few night employees from previous shifts. They all claimed to have felt something in the building, whispers, shadows in the hallway, doors unlocking themselves, but everyone dismissed it as hallucinations from working late. A week passed, and I continued to hear the footsteps whenever I was alone. One night, I felt the footsteps following directly behind me in the third-floor hallway. I turned, the flashlight cutting across the corridor, but it remained empty. When I turned again, I saw a faint shadow reflected in the office window, tall, motionless, facing directly toward me. I swallowed hard and ran out of the hallway. I left the building earlier than usual that night, but the effect lingered. I could no longer walk down long corridors without feeling watched. The footsteps echoed in my head, even at home. The CCTV footage, the log notes, and the building archives formed evidence that was both logical and impossible. Until today, I still don't know who or what was following my steps down that empty hallway. But I know one thing. That night, I wasn't alone. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still hear the footsteps, soft but certain, behind me. In the nights that followed, I began documenting everything: time, location, duration. The footsteps always appeared in the same hallway, precisely when I was alone. I tried recording the sound again, but every time I replayed the file, the footsteps seemed to disappear, leaving only silence. Even when I showed the logs and recordings to colleagues, they only smiled and suggested I get more rest. But I knew this wasn't something to ignore. Each time I walked through that hallway, my body tensed, my breathing quickened, but I couldn't look directly toward the shadows for long because I felt the presence watching from somewhere unseen. I realized I'd become part of the building's mystery, and what terrified me most was the growing certainty that the footsteps never left. They remained there, always following, as if embedded in the building itself. Eventually, I chose to leave the notes and recordings locked in my personal locker. I stopped trying to discover who or what it was, but sometimes, in the quiet of night, when the hallway lights flicker and rain taps against the window, I feel warm breath behind me, with nothing visible. I don't dare turn around, because I already know one thing for certain. That night, I was never truly alone. And someday, I fear those footsteps will follow me, even beyond the building, to my own home.